Hello and welcome. Good evening to the Curious Mind series session. I am Vikram. I'm going to be your host today evening. And along with me is Umang Verma. Hi, Umang. Good evening. Happy Friday.
Hi Vikram, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. Umang. Thank you so much. So, I would like to welcome all of you, all the audience here today evening, to the sixth podcast episode of the Curious Mind series, something we have started off as a journey and has already been picking up. And today we are going to cover a very interesting topic of a layman's guide to Gen AI, or like they say, generative artificial intelligence. So, without further ado, let me start off with a quick intro about Umang. Umang, am I audible? Am I clear? Are we good to roll?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, quick intro about Umang. He is an engineer by birth. He's been an engineer all throughout his life, uh, and also successfully done his MBA from IIM Bangalore. Umang possesses a rich technical experience, tech background and experience, having been associated with organizations like Wipro, Tavan Technologies, Tech Mahindra, and he came back to Oracle with a little stint earlier, wherein he's now been part of Oracle as an organization for the past 9+ years. A very, very stable person in his organization career. If you go up on LinkedIn and have a look, within Oracle itself, his profile has evolved over the years, and he has handled close to 6 different portfolios, with his current role being the head of tech of Cloud Engineering Hub within APAC. Umang, what a career. I don't understand half of this stuff, even though I've been associated with tech organization in the past, and I've hired tons and tons of techies till date. So can you give a little bit of background with all the kind of tech background you have and the organizations you've been part of?
Now I'll have to live up to what you just described, Vikram. Look, just to put it simply, I'm a technologist at heart. My expertise is in emerging tech for large enterprises, and that's what I've been doing for a very, very long time. I'm also an independent speaker, writer, panelist, and blogger for emerging tech in the global forums. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn tells me that I'm among the top 2% of business intelligence contributors globally, which tells you that there's something wrong with their algorithm.
Not at all.
I've been in IT consulting for many, many years. I've done multiple roles, right from sales, pre-sales, being part of product delivery across 4 countries, 2 continents. So yeah, it's been a good journey.
Wow, nice, very nice. And I'm sure LinkedIn's algorithm is not going wrong anywhere. I'm sure with the kind of, I've seen it yourself that you're quite active as far as adding value to people is concerned, and you're somebody who very freely and willingly shares knowledge. So that is something which comes very naturally to, and I think it's a great thing to have. So thank you so much, Umang, for being part of, or willing to be part of this Curious Mind series, and coming up and speaking on a topic which I personally think a lot of people are in that half-baked kind of a scenario where they don't really have the full knowledge. They think they have kind of little expertise around it, and half-baked knowledge is never that great, isn't it? And especially to a layman, especially to a person like me, I would put myself as a first example who's not an engineer, who's not a techie, but kind of understands what's happening around. So are you ready to kind of me to ask you some curious questions?
Go for it.
Okay, fantastic. Now, before I kind of go and start shooting Umang with some questions around Gen AI, to the audience, to all of you who are live right now with us, just to let you know, both me and Umang cannot see you. That is how the LinkedIn Live podcast episode works. But if you're liking the show, you can give a thumbs up. If you have a particular question you want to ask Umang right now, you can type it into the comment section, into the live stream right now, and it will come up here, and I can pop it up for Umang or myself to answer. So please feel free to ask questions. This is exactly the forum, and this is exactly the essence of why the Curious Mind series was launched, so that people get an opportunity to ask the speaker anything and everything under the sun on that particular topic. And if you're liking the show, you can always kind of you can give a thumbs up, or you can mention us in the comment section. So let's get the ball rolling without further ado. Thank you so much, Umang. Now I'll ask with what is the topic of our podcast today, which is what is Gen AI in a layman's language. So give me an example. So I will not say tell me an example as for a 20-year-old, or somebody at a 60-year-old. Give me an example for somebody who's between in a mid-career or a senior range between 35-year-old to 50-year-old, who has kind of seen the internet transform for all of us over the last 10-15 years, and now is being seen on a daily basis. There is Gen AI impacting us on our daily lives. Now, what is it to a layman's language? In a layman's language, what is it to us?
Okay, so I'll try and de-jargonize the whole space to explain to everybody what it is. It might be very simplistic for some people, but I'm hoping that for most of the audience, they try and get the gist of what I'm trying to convey. So look, if you look at the whole AI space, right? AI is about trying to make machines intelligent, okay? And helping them mimic how humans think, respond, and react. That's the whole space of AI. So within AI, you have machine learning, which is where machine learns something by data. And then you have Gen AI, which creates new outcomes. Right? So taking a very specific example, a very simple, maybe oversimplified example, say chess. You want a robot to learn to play chess. Okay, so that is AI. You want the robot to play chess. That's AI. So what you do, you feed it with a lot of game data, a lot of previous games, end games, mid games, whatever else, right? So that it learns. That's machine learning. Once it learns to play chess, it starts generating some new moves. That is generative AI, right? I hope I'm being able to convey what Gen AI means.
Yeah. Yes. You've taken a very good example, and I'll kind of just go back. I kind of Googled it just for the audience sake and for my sake. And I will read what Wikipedia says. Generative artificial intelligence is artificial intelligence capable of generating text, images, or other data using generative models, often in response to prompts. Generative AI models learn the patterns and structure of their input training data and then generate new data that has similar characteristics. Can you kind of, again, de-jargonize this and help us understand a little bit more about it?
Okay. So let's take this example further, right? I have a model which has learned basis huge amounts of data. So for example, I've trained it on entire Wikipedia. I've trained it on a lot of publicly available information. Okay. Then I ask us to create something. So what it has been trained on is how humans form language. Language, say, let's take English as an example, although this works in multiple languages. Language has a structure. There is a verb, there is an action, there is an adjective. Certain words follow the previous word. So there is a certain logic, right? So there is a probabilistic determination that happens that if I say he is playing, then there is a probability that only a certain number of words will come after it. Playing outdoors, playing in the garden, etc. So it learns from all of these examples that it has been trained on, and then understand what is the probability of the next word. Okay, and then it creates a probability map and says, if somebody gives me this text input and asks me the next word, these are the possibilities and based on probability. Now extend the same thing to other media, which is instead of text, it could be music. So you could feed it on some modern master, say Kenny G or somebody else, right? On that style of music, the AI engine will understand the patterns in that music. What is so unique about that music as opposed to some other music composer? And then it'll understand those patterns and try and recreate them, right?
So who builds AI? Who does this? I mean, what happens in the background? What happens in the back end? So I, as a user, I'm seeing the output, right, Umang? Correct me if I'm wrong, but which examples you're perfectly putting across. But then what happens in the background? How does this information come up?
Okay, so what happens is you have these models that are pre-trained on a lot of publicly available information. So you would have heard of Llama 7 billion and Lava. Now there is Llama 65 billion. So there are these pre-trained AI models that have been trained on a lot of publicly available information. Okay. Now, what happens is for specific usage, you would train them to do something specific. So, for example, if you go to Midjourney, some of these models are now specialized and trained to generate images. Okay. Or if you go to certain enterprises that are experimenting with AI models, what they are doing is they are taking models like Llama or the equivalents, training them on their own data. How do my customers behave? What are my service tickets? What is the pattern there? What is the issue that's getting repeated? What is the typical resolution that I give each time? So I'm training them on my own data. Once the model is trained, then obviously it will start generating a lot of useful information, resolving tickets for me, creating FAQs for me based on the general training and then the fine tuning that's been done on my data. So that's how pretty much it works.
Okay, and fantastic. And how has this evolved? Why suddenly we are seeing in everything in our daily lives, right? Everything about Gen AI. I mean, we just talk about Chat GPT like it is probably on a breakfast table or on a dinner table at this point in time. Why? Has it evolved very fast, or has it taken a while?
Good question. So if you look at it, right, AI has been around for very, very long. It's not new, right? Yeah. Generative AI, the architectures were created a few years back. That's new, but the whole AI space has been around for long. But there's been a sudden explosion, right? But my theory on this, and that's something that I've read recently, is every technology needs a killer app to become popular, right? So, for example, internet, the killer app was search engines. For social media, the killer app was Facebook, right? So, for Gen AI, the killer app is ChatGPT. Now, if you look at blockchain or if you look at IoT, and I do a lot of work there, I've been a proponent of these technologies for ages, but they haven't caught on like Gen AI has. Because my belief, IoT, blockchain, Web3 still haven't found their killer app, which is why maybe they are not the breakfast table conversations that a ChatGPT and Gen AI are.
Okay. Thanks. Fantastic. Before I go on to the next one, I'm going to just pop up. Hi, Jean. Thanks for joining. And she's just saying, good afternoon, Vikram and Umang. Good afternoon to you too, Jean. Thank you for joining. I know, Jean, I've seen your LinkedIn profile, and I know you're doing a lot of interesting stuff in the Gen AI space. If there is any specific question you would want to ask us, please feel free to ask. This is your forum. But thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. The next one is probably a question for me, Umang. So, hi, Milita. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're connecting us from. Would there be a recording of this session? Yes, this session would be uploaded onto my LinkedIn stream. There would be an upload to it. I'm also going to save it on a YouTube channel, which I'll share the link for. So yes, it is getting recorded as we speak at this point in time. And a recording version of it would be there on my LinkedIn stream as well, and as well as on my YouTube channel under the Curious Mind series as well. But I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for asking. And the same goes for everyone. If you have any specific questions, I've just started getting the ball rolling, and we've just warmed up, Umang, in terms of what is Gen AI from a layman's perspective. I hope you guys are understanding, or you're getting a point of, from a very basic, simple language, what does it mean? Okay, there's no other questions right now, Umang, so I'll go on to the next one. And we are in the flow. Now, when people talk about Gen AI, and I did a little bit of reading, even though I'm not a techie, then there is this Chat GPT we spoke about. There is Grok, which is coming from the Elon Musk world. There is OpenAI, which is Sam started off with that episode which happened around him. And there is, today when we read, Microsoft is launching things around AI, Google is launching things around AI, There are videos which are coming up. There is just so much thing which is happening on a daily basis. Now, are these all from different organizations? And again, as a layman, how do I choose? What do I choose? There is just so much on my plate right now. I'm just confused that where do I go and what do I go for? Or actually, do I even pick up something from the buffet on my plate, or I just leave it? Any thoughts? Any inputs on that?
So this is something I deal with on a daily basis, even though I'm in the space. But for me to even keep track of what's happening gets very, very difficult. But look, here's my take, and depends on whether you are an independent user. Are you looking at a utility use case? This will help me make my life easier. Are you a business, an entrepreneur and a business owner, and you're trying to see how can this bring more efficiencies to my business or help my business scale? Or if you are an enterprise, right, who's running a multi-million-dollar enterprise and you're looking to understand what this technology can do for me, right? So multiple perspectives. I'll give you a framework that I recently read in McKinsey and I loved it. So there are three kinds of use cases. You will either be a taker, a shaper, or a maker. Taker is a user of available tools, right? So you've seen the GPT action, the GPT store, where you've got lots of utilities. So you could use that for personal utility. So if you're creating a video like this podcast, right? Maybe we could use one of these utilities to auto-translate this in 100 languages, Vikram, and give you that breadth and scale, right? As an independent entrepreneur. And that's the easiest place to start. Taker, use it for utility, explore the space. Second is a shaper, which is where you integrate available models with your own data. So again, back to my service example, I take an open source model, say a Llama. I feed it or I fine tune it with my company's own data to see if it can give me my company's process specific insights. Right? That's shaper. That's slightly more complex to do because it requires a lot more technical understanding. It requires some GPUs, which are costly and difficult to get by. It requires some investments, some human capital investments, technology investments, time investments. Therefore, a little bit complex. Third is a maker, a builder of LLMs, right? Just the examples that you gave now are all builders of LLMs. So first, you've got to decide who you are. Are you a layperson? Are you a business owner? Are you running an enterprise? What do you need it for? A utility? Or are you looking at shaper kind of use cases to bring in process efficiencies in your organization? Or are you in the process, or are you in the business of creating LLMs? And then for each of these, there are different requirements. One other aspect, so for example, I work with many customers, say in Vietnam or Indonesia, and they say, I need a model, I need shaper kind of use cases, right? Where I'll take an available model, but I need it to work in my country, in my context, which means the documents that needs to work with should be in Vietnamese. It should understand the Vietnamese language and respond back in English or respond back in Vietnamese, etc. So for there, you can look at a lot of available models which handle that language and then use those, right? So while there is a huge buffet, first is to clarify what your objectives are. Basis your objectives, then do a bit of exploration, either pick a utility or a model, start experimenting, and then just hang in there. Right? Learn from your experience, and then you'll understand which direction you need to move in. You run an early experiment. Some early experiments will fail, right? But then if you do 10 of those, 9 might fail, 1 looks like it might scale, and that's where you put your energy. That's sort of the way I would ask enterprises to navigate this space.
Nice, very nice. Thank you for explaining. Before I go on to the next question, I'll just kind of say hello to Ayan Banerjee. Hi, Ayan. Thanks, Vikram and Umang. Please share the recording also. Oh, yeah, definitely we do. I'll put it up in the comment section once. It is generally how LinkedIn podcast or a StreamYard, which is a third-party tool, it works is and I'm understanding it too, that once the session is over, they take some time to kind of get it recorded and upload. And once it uploads, it sends me the link, which I will then upload it on my LinkedIn stream. So definitely the recording will happen. Hopefully you can join the session. And again, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me or Umang, or I'm already on the roll at this point in time. Thanks, Umang. Thanks, Ayan. Thanks, Ayan, for joining. The next one. So we spoke about what it is from a layman's language. We kind of touched upon ChatGPT, the different LLMs which are doing it. You explain the model in terms of the taker, shaper, maker model also very well. Thanks so much on that. Now, with all the advent, and everybody has kind of joined the bandwagon, the organizations, like you said, the enterprises have joined it. People are joining it. People are literally exploring it on a daily basis. They're going into ChatGPT, and now we started seeing some videos which have started coming through. Now, what are the pros and cons in today's world of using Gen AI and any user interface tool? That's fine. But what are the pros and cons according to you in a very, very candid manner?
So I'll share my thoughts with the proviso that whatever I say will and should change in the next 6 months, given that it's a highly evolving field in a very fast pace. So I'll be disappointed that it won't change. But as things stand today, right? One is it's pretty much changed the way we look at many business processes, right? So for example, we just spoke about you not limiting yourself, Vikram, this podcast just to one country or to an English speaking audience, right? You could potentially stream this live in 100 countries speaking 100 different languages at the same time, right? Or for example, we were having discussions with multiple companies. Some of them are small startups. They are limited by scale and size and talent to just one or two countries, right? But then what if you could potentially use AI to translate your product content into 100 different languages or 10 different languages, right? That will make sure that your partners who are there in those countries can understand how to service your products. Therefore, immediately you'll be able to set up service partnerships in those countries, which it was difficult for you to penetrate.
Right.
Those kind of things are immediately available to you. So simple use cases like auto-translating videos, translating text, content, those areas you have to completely reimagine how do you work in those spaces, right? Customer service is being completely reimagined. I'll give you an example. There's a friend of mine, and this is not a Gen AI use case. He's been doing it for 3 years using AI. He runs a company called Sanas. What they do is, in BPOs, accent neutralization is a big issue.
Right? Absolutely.
We've all seen it. And there is a huge amount of training cost in neutralizing accents so that they can cater different markets, or creating an accent so that they are friendlier to that market. So this company has actually created an accent neutralization software. You can go to the website and check it out. Right?
Okay.
So somebody could speak in heavily accented Vietnamese, English, but heavily accented English. And the AI engine will neutralize that accent. Now imagine, right? Earlier you would spend a lot of time trying to recruit people who had a good English level and all of that. Now you don't need to worry about it. You should just be able to express himself in that language. Gen AI can take it a step further. It can do real-time speech translation. So for example, I could be speaking to you in Vietnamese, right? But you could be hearing it in English.
Really?
Yes, that's where Gen AI is headed, right? And that's going to be the next killer use case for Gen AI. So now imagine if you were to set up a BPO today or a customer service organization today, the way you would go about recruiting and building skills, where would you have offices, completely transformed.
It's a game changer. It's a totally different game changer altogether.
Let me take it a step further. I've seen a very, very early experimentations, and this might take a bit of time to productionize, is where can you run a customer service center without humans? Or humans in only auditing roles, but just robo agents taking calls, right? Possible. If it's simple enough. So I'm doing a pilot with some enterprise customer where, for example, you can call a robot. Okay, so call, not chat, but you can call a robot.
Call.
Pick up your call. You could speak in any language that you want. It'll understand you, right? You could speak in Mandarin or Vietnamese or Thai or whatever else, right? It'll understand you. It'll handle your queries. So if you want to book a cab or you want to do a transaction or whatever, it'll do it for you. If you want to resolve issues, it can in a limited fashion resolve issues by looking at images, videos of an incident, etc. And it can respond back to you in your own language. And it will also initiate any action. So if it needs to initiate a refund for you for erroneous transaction, it can do that. Now imagine if I just scale that out. Instead of one robo agent, I have 100 robo agents running an entire customer service center. It's not very impossible given how technology is proceeding.
Wow. So I am assuming these are, they are mind-blowing stuff, but I'm assuming this is pros. Any cons, any disadvantages you think in today's world we are experiencing based on all what we have discussed or what we are seeing right now? Any disadvantages? Can somebody take it to a very negative level?
See, like with any technology, like fire, like printing presses, like the car, risks will happen. So with fire, you can burn down things. With printing press, you can publish things that lead to hatred or other issues. With a car, you can run down people, right? So there are risks, and those are happening now, right? So a couple of things that I'm concerned about. One is fake videos, deep fakes. So there are elections happening in some large countries in the world. I'm worried about these deep fake videos and the impact they will have on people's psyche. That's something that I am concerned about. Second thing that I am concerned about is if you go to the ChatGPT store, for example, right, you will find a lot of these AI apps, say a boyfriend or a girlfriend app, right, where you could open your heart out and have a relationship with a robot, right, a romantic relationship. I'm worried about what that will do to people's psyche. I'm worried that people start taking these as real people or start taking them as psychiatrists, right? Who can help them deal with people's situations. Because they are not. At the end, we are mistaking fluency, language fluency for intelligence.
Right? For authenticity also.
Absolutely, for authenticity, for empathy. That's not true. It's a piece of code which has been trained to predict the next word. It doesn't know anything beyond that, right? So I'm worried about the impact it will have on the vulnerable. So these are use cases I remain concerned about.
Very valid, very valid, very interesting. So then, it kind of brings me to the next question very nicely. Can a layman, and I'm definitely one of them, live a life without Gen AI today? Now, I am one of them, and in the household, it pretty much is. There is this opposition party which says that we should use it, and I'm one of the few ones who's like, I can live a life without Gen AI today. Now, given all what you've said, can I really live a life without it today? Or I think I'm just pushing the envelope a little too much?
See, theoretically, you can live a life without your mobile also, right, Vikram? You can live a life without internet. But
absolutely,
what is more convenient and practical for you? A life with it, life without it. So
it has its benefits.
It has its benefits. You potentially a late adopter. Obviously, technology is also emerging. So the utilities that we want to use, there are bugs, there are issues. Some of them are not easy to work with. So for example, for my articles, right, if I take X amount of time to write a LinkedIn article, I take 2x to generate an image. One, because I don't have a creative bone inside me. So I have to give it a text prompt and tell the Midjourney or any of the others what to generate, and I struggle with it. But also tells you that for a layperson like me in the creative world, these are very difficult to use. For Midjourney, you need a Discord server. Now, how many people know how to work with a Discord server? There's nothing to it once you've done it, right? But so some of these are slightly more difficult to work now. As time goes by, the best minds in the world are working on this. So things will get easier. Interfaces will become simpler, right? So for you, as a late adopter, to even work with it, things will get much, much easier over time. And it'll be a there'll be a time soon enough in the future where this will be as indispensable to you as your mobile phone.
Okay. I'm definitely categorized on this live stream as a late adopter to Gen AI, which is fine. I'm absolutely fine with it. But definitely, I've been put into that box by thank you to Umang. But that's fine. Anyone, again, you're pretty much halfway through, as they say, mid journey through this session at this point in time. If there is any specific questions you have, anything which is popping up your mind right now, saying, this is what I've heard from Umang, and I'm more keen to know on a particular aspect. Just like it was Jean or Minita or Ayon who typed in their comments. If you can type in it, we can pop it up, and I'm sure Umang will be more than happy to answer. But so then, while we expect people to kind of ask the question, Umang, just going in the same breath of what you mentioned. Now today, when I go on LinkedIn, and I'm typing a draft message to someone, there is a section below which says there is a particular word for it. I'm forgetting, but it says you can use AI to write what it is, rewrite that particular aspect. Now, when I type all my posts, whether it is on LinkedIn or the articles I write till today, I can be honest, hand to heart, that I have not used ChatGPT or I have not used any model of Gen AI at this point in time. I've purely written what I think. So I think creatively, whether it is right grammatically, not right, not creative, that is a second perspective to it. But I've not used it. But I am day by day, and there are many people like me. I'm just giving my own example, but there are many people like me who feel, oh, I can just put it up there. I can do a draft message, put it up there on ChatGPT, and I'll get a fantastic output from it. But then the question remains is, it is good, but it's not authentic. It is not what you actually wrote. Now, again, any thoughts around that particular aspect? Because people are using it. Like you said, the first basic level user are now going into whether it is in HR, whether it's in recruitment, whether it is in marketing. You take so many fields, people are actually using it. They're just going into ChatGPT, typing what they want, getting a very polished outcome, if I were to say, and then they are using it. Now, is that what the future is going to be?
See, I won't sit in judgment. I have my own personal strong views on usage, but I won't sit in judgment. Couple of things that I can share, right? One is people are using ChatGPT to write articles for themselves, and for some of us who've spent a bit of time on LinkedIn, those articles come across very clearly. We can make out that they are largely ChatGPT written, which is fine, right? Understand you have an original idea to express. You're not comfortable in the language, and therefore you're taking support from ChatGPT to write your article. I'm absolutely fine with it. However, and that's fine. I'm saying I have no strong opinions about others on why people use it, not use it. To me personally, the language is very clunky. I'm not a big fan of the ChatGPT generated content. I have a big sort of personally, I am very I have a very strong feeling about my own voice. My own voice needs to reflect in my writing, but that's my own personal opinion. How I see people intelligently using it, right, is there's a friend of mine who runs a media company which publishes a blog on Web3 companies in Malaysia. Okay, so it's a simple blog. Earlier, it would take him 2 weeks to get the blog out because he'd have to do the content writing, he'll have to do a lot of research, get data from multiple places, assimilate it, write it. It took him 2 weeks. Now he's doing a daily blog. Daily blog. Okay. What he's doing is he's used ChatGPT. He set up something called LangChain Essentially, look at multiple GPTs changed together, which do the research for you, which compress ideas, give you the top topics that could be of interest, generate the first draft, then he edits it. He's got a team of copywriters who help him in the writing, etc. But all the research task is done by the engine itself. So now it takes him less than half a day to do the final editing, proofreading, bring his own voice, his organization's voice, his own voice in it, and publishing. So from a productivity perspective, something that he was doing in 2 weeks is now being done in a day. Imagine what it does to his business, right? So I think there's a lot of potential for people to use it smartly to further their business.
Okay. Yeah, very nice. So in the same space, kind of going on to the next one. So when I was again, I'm on X, or what we used to call Twitter before. So what does near future look like? And I put it up on LinkedIn also, in the Gen AI space. Future is there. A futurist called Ray Kurzweil recently said that AI will achieve human level intelligence by 2029. And Elon Musk tweeted on top of that saying AI will probably be smarter than any single human next year, which is literally like 2025. And Elon Musk even tweeted saying by 2029, AI is probably smarter than all humans combined. This does seem a little scary, Umang. What are your thoughts? And I'm going back to another sentence which you said a while back, which you said things will evolve in 6 months' time because it is moving at such a fast pace. So I'm not saying whether Elon is right or a futuristic Ray, what he's saying. We are nobody here to kind of question that. But what we are saying is, if people like them who are in this space are saying these things, there must be some content behind it. There must be some reasoning behind it.
So look, I'm no one to go against Elon Musk, but I'll tell you what I think. Okay, and I'm looking at what this architecture is, what can it do for you? Now, and can it mimic human intelligence? So for an intelligent behavior like a human, you need 4 characteristics. You need to understand the physical world. You need to have the ability to reason. You need to have a persistent memory. And then you need to have the ability to plan, right? Now look at each of these. Can AI engine do all of this today? They can do some things very well. But do they understand the physical world, for example, as well as they need to? See, the way I look at it, right? In my mind, a cat and a dog actually understand the human world much, much better. The physical world much, much better than an AI engine, right? I mean, imagine it's a busy road, right? And there is a cat running on the road, okay? It is trying to catch a mouse. So imagine this. It's a road, it's a busy road. The cat is chasing the mouse. Cars are whizzing past, people are walking, there is noise, there is shadows, there is wind blowing, there is rain. Now the cat will know exactly at what velocity, which angle to run, how to run the mouse in an obstruction, maybe in a wall, how the mouse will react on seeing a car, right? And to pounce on it at the exact second and direction it needs to catch it. Can you imagine AI doing it today? I can't. And I've spoken about only one aspect of human intelligence or intelligence. So AI struggles to understand the physical world. So from here, going to AGI, I am not sure at this stage. I don't see a straight line. Now, let's imagine that it could. Let's, for an example, assume that Elon Musk knows more and maybe it could. But these developments will not happen immediately. They will happen gradually, right? Like with every technology. So like with every technology, as one part grows, the other part will also evolve. So counterpoint technologies will also emerge, which can handle, put a regulatory framework around it, which can handle the risks and threats around it. Like it's happened with other technologies, right? So I am not a big believer personally in the whole AGI space. We are working with engines which can predict the next word, right? which will predict next part of an image. But for it to, I mean, I can't imagine a robot going in from a plane here from KL to Singapore, right? So getting dressed, going through security, getting a cab, going through security, boarding a flight, and then getting down at departure and going to a place there. Can you imagine a robot doing all of this? It's a little far off from the technology that are available today. So AGI, in my mind, needs a little bit more work.
Okay. It gives a little safe space in my heart at this point in time, hearing all this. Okay, that's interesting. Moving on to the next one. How does, in terms of, so for again, going back to the layman's example, for somebody like me who has now, today there would be people here who are on this live stream, have heard you, and then obviously there is a level of curiosity generated, interest generated. Now, that person is sitting here with a half-baked knowledge, has probably used it, not used it. Like you said, the initial user part of it. Now, how does this person enhance his knowledge, expertise around them? So if I were to kind of say, okay, I'm going to invest half an hour of my time daily onto this so that I kind of upskill myself. I am with the world where the world is moving, with pure optimism to kind of enhance my knowledge and expertise. What should I do? Where should I go for? And I can be anything. I can be an HR person. I can be a marketing professional. I can be in the tech space. I can be anything, business intelligence guy, whatever. So if I'm in a particular profession or I'm an entrepreneur and I'm starting off today, what should I do to upskill myself and probably not be extinct 10 years from now or 5 years from now?
I think a couple of things that are easy to do. One is there are some amazing newsletters that are published, which will give you a quick snapshot of the top offerings. So Jean here, who just said good afternoon to us, she runs an amazing newsletter, and I've subscribed to it and I read every day, where she picks one topic and she talks about that topic, right? So that's a good way to stay abreast of what's happening in that space. Now, your focus and interest could be something very specific. Say, for example, you need to understand you're in insurance and you need to understand how will AI disrupt the insurance space. So you can subscribe to Medium. In Medium, there are lots of articles which are very industry focused. Some of them are very technical focused. So there are some articles that I read and I don't understand much of it, but they get into the whole architecture aspect of things, right? Some of them talk about the whole human aspect of AI. So there are lots of articles on Medium around that. Right? So those are, again, articles that you could look at, subscribe to, spend 30 minutes reading every day. Then, like the newsletter I spoke about, there are many other such newsletters which are very, very industry, very domain specific. Right? So you could subscribe to many of these and do a search on LinkedIn, you'll find many of these. Third thing that I recommend is just dive into it, play with it. Open up ChatGPT, play with it. Open up Gemini, play with it. There are many apps on the ChatGPT store. Play with them. AI will now be available on the Samsung phone. Once you get your hands on it, play with it. I'll give you a feel and intuition for the technology and then what it can and what it can't. There's a good layman way of getting started with the space.
To nicely, easily blend into it.
Exactly.
Okay. There's one question which Megha had, but it's not coming on LinkedIn for on the comment section. So I'm going to ask on behalf of her, what lessons can be learned from past approaches to regulating and managing social media platforms that could inform how we approach the regulation of Gen AI technologies?
See, it's a very good question. And not just me, nobody has clear answers today because we are in infancy. If you look at it, right, every new disruption, the regulations have always lagged behind. Be it Uber, regulations are still being formed in certain parts of the world. crypto, regulations are still being formed, right? So regulations are taking their time. There has been effort done in EU. EU has come up with a paper and there are some early discussions there. Singapore has come up with some kind of a guideline. So people are still thinking through the regulations. Okay. In my mind, what are the 3 or 4 areas that are very important from a regulation perspective? Right. I'll tell you those. And regulation will develop the way it does. First thing that I think about is the whole issue of data security. Okay.
Absolutely.
My worry is that, for example, again, the boyfriend girlfriend app, right? I might be sharing things. I might be prompted to share things which I shouldn't. My bank account number, my personal data, my very personal family details, right? What happens to the data? I worry about that. So there needs to be a regulation and a regulatory framework around it, around capturing data, around storing that data, right? So those are things that we need to look at. Deep fakes. There has to be regulation around deep fakes. So people are experimenting, and I've written an article about it on how you can apply watermarks or how you can serve. There are technologies developed in Stanford which can help you poison these images. So the AI engine understands them very differently from what the image is. It's an image of a cat. AI engine will think it's a dog. So there are technologies which can then help the regulator to enforce certain regulation on that space. Right? So deep fakes is again a big area that needs regulation. Third, and it's a very contentious issue, but again something I'm worried about is the whole monopolization of the AI space. Right now, look at it. What is the biggest issue in the AI space? The biggest monopoly is around the GPUs. You have very few monopolies selling GPUs, so they have a lot of market power. Can there be a regulation around it? Around training LLMs. Now we know, right? Training a chat GPT and keep it running takes a lot of money. And that also leads to a monopoly or a duopoly, right? What happens to that? Concentrated market power, then what happens to that space? Are there risks that emerge out of it? So again, that's an area that regulators are looking at to put some regulations around. So there are many of these areas that regulators are looking at to develop some regulations around. But obviously, since the whole area is in a very nascent space, regulations will take time.
Okay, that's very valid. Thank you so much, Umang. That's helpful. I had the next question, which was on confidentiality of information, because as much as you put it through Chat GPT or any of these tools, at the end of the day, you are sharing more information about yourself, and obviously, it's an information which is going out from you. So, but then you've kind of covered in the previous answer itself. I have a last couple of questions, and we're pretty much on the hour. But today's kids in schools are getting familiarized with Gen AI. What are your thoughts around it? Is this the right thing to do for somebody who are still kind of in the bookish knowledge space? Obviously, there is an influx of internet and everything. They have access to everything today. But then, what does this mean to an 8-year-old in terms of his or her future? And I'm sure you would relate to it. For somebody who's getting exposed to Gen AI today, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Imagine that schools were being still taught in the oral tradition. There were no books, and suddenly printing presses were invented. And suddenly books started appearing. Now, what would your thought be? Would you keep your students and your children away from books, saying, oh, they'll cheat in the exam? If you have to remember something and orally recite it, you will look at the book and recite, or you will give them exposure to books. So we are at that same moment in our education system. Books, we understand, right? It helps us propagate knowledge, understand a lot more about the world. So similarly, I believe we are at that same inflection point in our education system. If you look at what Khan's Academy is doing, they're working on developing personalized tutors for every student. So the way my kid learns maths, the way your kid learns maths could be very different, right? How can you have a personalized tutor for everybody? There are live examples in China of entire tuition centers being run by AI agents. All your kid has to do is go sit there with a headphone, and there is an AI agent personally tutoring your children on a certain subject, right? Now, the way our whole education system has to evolve to adopt this technology,
Ground up.
make our childs better, smarter, is what we have to think and figure out. So it's an inflection point.
Very interesting, because it is definitely a point of discussion at home now, for me at least. I have to kind of adapt and upskill at that stage at this point in time. Okay, last question from my side. How much do you, Umang, as in the profession you are, and we spoke so much about Gen AI and this entire space, how much do you on a daily basis practice what you preach? Do you kind of go onto it and use it daily?
Good question. Not daily, but a couple of things that I do. One is professionally, I have to consult my customers on what are the use cases in the industry, how do they start early adoption. I have to work with my team in building early prototypes for them, show them, and then talk to them about the human aspects, how do they adopt it, etc. So that's my regular day. I have to do these discussions on a pretty daily basis as part of my life. Outside of work, I do use some of these engines. So, for example, I use Midjourney to generate the creatives for my LinkedIn articles and posts whenever I get the time to write them. I use Gemini to battle test ideas, right? So, for example, if I'm going to deliver a session to, there is a couple of upcoming sessions that I'm doing with some people from the industry, battle test my ideas. So here are 5 things that I'm going to take to a set of insurance brokers, right? Battle test my ideas. What could potential objections be? Right?
Okay.
And I get some very interesting insights. Right? And some of them I can incorporate them. So it's a good sounding board for me whenever I'm trying to sort of test some of my ideas. So yeah, I do work with some of these models regularly in my personal life as well.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Very nice. Thanks. Well, I am assuming there is not more questions coming from the audience, which is fine. From my side, I have covered the most part of the questions which I wanted to. Obviously, there is an interesting round which is still there. But then, just to the audience who are hearing this live and you don't have a question, if you have a question in future, you definitely have Umang on LinkedIn. You can write to him. You can again drop in on the comment section here, and I'm sure Umang will provide a response. And just to highlight it again, the questions which were asked, Umang had no clue about them. All he knew was these are the topics. So the answers which you've got from the questions I have asked him are absolutely spot on in terms of his answers, and he's been very candid. And thank you for that, Umang.
Thank you.
Now, getting to the last bit of the Curious Mind series, and this is the rapid fire section before we wrap up. Now, the reason for this is it's a Friday evening. We would like to keep it a little lighter for a Friday evening. We've kind of gone through this experience of understanding a lot about Gen AI from a layman's perspective, and I think your insights were really invaluable. But this rapid fire section is kind of also for people in the audience to know a little bit about you. Probably some of your team members would also be watching it, or your peers, your colleagues would be watching it. And like, I didn't knew this aspect about Umang, and I'm very keen to know. So here you go, Umang. Are you ready for that?
Let me wipe my sweat off my brow. No, I'm ready.
That's a nice way of putting it. If first question, let's get it rolling. First question: if Gen AI wouldn't have happened, your life would be dash 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 dash. Complete the sentence.
My life would be as exciting, but with some other technology.
But technology would have played a part in your life.
Oh yes, definitely. I'm still involved with the whole Web3 space, deeply passionate about it. IoT space, very deeply passionate. I do a lot of work on analytics, big data. So yeah, that technology plays a big role in my life.
Okay. Okay. Next question. The current or the last series you are binge watching either on Netflix or any other OTT platform, something which has really caught your interest and you're like, you can't just take your eyes off it right now.
I'm watching Suits for the fourth time now.
Okay. Interesting. For the fourth time, the same episodes again and again.
I love it.
Okay. Interesting. We'll park it for another day. What do you learn from it? Because I'm sure that will take a few more minutes or probably another 15-20 minutes, which we can't. Okay, interesting. Third question, and there is only 5 for the rapid fire one. Third question, one dish you can cook for everyone in the family and your family loves it. It's like, Umang will cook again and we love that dish.
Good you asked only one. If there was 2, then I wouldn't have an answer. I make the best pizzas, vegetarian pizzas at home, as my family will tell you. And that's the only thing I can cook.
Fantastic, fantastic. I hope they are up for dinner today.
Sure.
Fourth one. What's your favorite sport? And what is that one learning you inculcate in your life from this particular sport?
My favorite that I like playing whenever I get the chance is table tennis. What I like about it is that it doesn't matter the gender, doesn't matter the age actually. Even though reflexes might slow down, but it doesn't matter the your age. Everyone can play it and everyone can be good at it. What I take away from it is adaptability. So you playing against a left-hander, you playing against somebody who's got a good smash, somebody who loves driving, somebody who's got a very different mental makeup. He's not very aggressive. How do you adapt your game to beat the opponent? That's what I take away from that game, and that's something you can apply in real life as well. So that's a sport I love.
Nice, nice. Next time I'm up for a table tennis challenge, I know who to play with. And I will not do a battlefield on Gen AI at that point.
Oh man, I shouldn't have told you. I'm very rusty, so sure, up for a game anytime.
Right at the basic, but yeah. Okay. Last question to you. What keeps you awake in the night nowadays? Other than Suits as an episode, if you watch that late in the night, but in a very generalistic way, what keeps you awake in the night nowadays?
I think we live in amazing times, right? Earlier, the technologies I spoke about, right? The Ford car, the printing press, technologies took a lot of time to develop, mature, etc. But now we're getting new technologies on every couple of years. And that keeps me excited and awake, right? So we had IoT, we had big data, and there's been a lot of changes there in big data recently. In the whole architecture there is the whole blockchain space, the crypto space, the Web3 space, that there is Gen AI. So there's a lot happening in the tech space that's pretty much changing our lives, not just as technology, but as lay people. And that keeps me very excited. I think about how these can be applied to make businesses become better and drive real business outcomes for the society, for the businesses themselves. That's something that keeps me excited and going.
Very nice, very nice. Excellent. Well, wow, pretty much on the dot, but that kind of brings us indeed to the end of this Curious Mind series session. Some very interesting answers, and I'm sure everyone in the audience would have known a bit more about Umang based on the last 5 questions, and definitely from a Gen AI perspective, more about what a layman's life would be and what we need to do at this point in time. And before we wrap up for the day, do give us feedback, whether it is positive or it is constructive, regarding your overall experience of the Curious Mind series podcast episodes, which we are doing. It helps us enhance further over a period of time and be better in the next time round. And also, if there are any curious topics which are kind of interest to you, which are popping your mind, or a guest speaker you would like to listen to as good as Umang or some of the previous ones whom we have had on our podcast, do message me and we can take it further. Until next time, firstly, I would like to thank Umang. Umang, thanks again for coming up on the Curious Mind series live LinkedIn Live podcast. I think it was great in terms of hearing you, and it will benefit the audience a lot of how easily, in a layman's language, you have helped us understand around Gen AI. I would really like to thank you for that.
Thanks, Vikram. Pleasure chatting with you.
And until next time, to everyone, take care. A blessed Ramadan Kareem to our Muslim friends who are fasting this holy month. Please stay safe, everyone, and see you again soon. A big bye from myself and Umang for now. Thank you once again for joining and hearing us out for these live sessions. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.